A conflict. So savage, humanity's name echoes in galactic fear. The Galactic War Museum on Nexus Prime maintained a special wing dedicated to the conflicts that had shaped interstellar civilization. Curator Vex of the Reptilian Historical Society led groups of students through halls displaying artifacts from the Crystalline Wars, the Silicon Uprising, and dozens of other campaigns that had defined galactic politics for millennia. But there was one exhibit that visitors approached with hushed voices and nervous glances. The final chamber, sealed behind reinforced transparent aluminum, contained relics from what historians simply called the Human War. Professor Vex asked young student Cal from the Aquatic Academy, her tentacles curling with anxiety as she approached the display. Why is this section kept separate from the other exhibits? Vex paused before the massive blast doors that protected the chamber, his scaled hands working the multiple security locks with practiced precision. Even 50 years after the conflict's end, protocols remained in place to restrict access to materials that could trigger psychological trauma in sensitive species. Because, Vex replied carefully, the Human War was unlike any conflict in recorded galactic history. What you're about to see represents documentation of warfare so savage that it fundamentally changed how every species in the galaxy approaches military strategy. The doors opened with a heavy mechanical sound, revealing a chamber filled with holographic displays, weapon fragments, and tactical recordings. The centerpiece was a three-dimensional battlefield reconstruction showing the siege of Crimson Station, where human forces had demonstrated capabilities that defied every conventional understanding of combat. The war began as a territorial dispute, Vex explained, his voice taking on the measured tone of someone who had studied these events for decades. The Draconic Empire claimed exclusive mining rights to the Outer Rim systems, including territories inhabited by human colonists. Standard diplomatic procedure suggested the humans would negotiate or withdraw. Student Rex from the Silicon Collective accessed the display data with mechanical precision. Records indicate human military strength was assessed at fewer than 100 vessels. The Draconic Empire deployed over 3,000 ships for what they expected to be a brief policing action. Vex activated the first holographic sequence, showing the initial engagement at the edge of human space. The Draconic fleet had approached with overwhelming confidence, expecting quick surrender from what they considered a minor species with limited military capabilities. The first battle lasted 14 minutes, Vex continued. When it was over, the Draconic advance fleet had suffered 80% casualties. The humans had lost 3 ships. The students stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Several species had fought the Draconic Empire over the centuries, and none had achieved such devastating results against their advanced fleets. How did the humans accomplish such a victory? Asked student Nora from the Crystalline Collective, her translucent form flickering with confused light patterns. They cheated, Vex replied bluntly. Or rather, they fought using principles that no civilized species had ever considered acceptable in warfare. The next holographic display showed detailed analysis of human weapons and tactics. Instead of the energy-based systems favored by most galactic civilizations, human technology seemed designed for maximum destructive efficiency rather than elegant implementation. Human weapons were crude by galactic standards, Vex explained, highlighting specific systems in the display. But they were devastatingly effective. While other species had spent millennia refining their technology for precision and minimal collateral damage, humans had optimized theirs for killing. Student Cal's tentacles writhed with distress as she examined the weapon specifications. These designs show no consideration for limiting casualties or preserving captured vessels. They appear intended solely for destruction. Exactly, Vex confirmed. Every other species in galactic history had developed warfare as an extension of diplomacy. Combat was seen as a means of demonstrating superior position while leaving room for negotiation and surrender. The display shifted to show recordings from the Battle of the Void Gates, where human tactics had shocked even veteran military analysts. Instead of the formal fleet engagements favored by civilized warfare, human forces had used ambush tactics, feint attacks, and what military historians termed asymmetric brutality. Humans treated war as a problem to be solved, rather than a dance to be performed, Vex continued. They showed no interest in demonstrating superiority or achieving political advantage. They simply wanted to win, and they were willing to do whatever that required. The recordings showed human vessels ramming enemy ships when ammunition ran low, using damaged vessels as guided weapons, and employing tactics that violated every convention of civilized combat. Most disturbing of all, they had shown no interest in taking prisoners or preserving captured technology. The psychological impact on enemy forces was catastrophic, Vex explained, as the display showed intelligence reports from the Draconic Empire. Their commanders had no framework for understanding an enemy that fought without regard for their own casualties or conventional military honor. Student Rex processed the data with visible strain. Human casualties during the war exceeded 40% of their total military personnel. Yet they continued fighting with undiminished effectiveness. Because they understood something that the rest of the galaxy had forgotten, Vex said quietly. Sometimes survival requires accepting losses that civilized minds consider unthinkable. The final display showed the war's conclusion at the Battle of Broken Suns, where the combined might of 3 galactic civilizations had attempted to contain human expansion. The result had been a defeat so complete that it had reshaped interstellar politics permanently. The humans didn't just win battles, Vex explained. They eliminated entire enemy fleets so thoroughly that reconstruction became impossible. Planets that opposed them found their orbital infrastructure completely destroyed. Military academies that had taught warfare for thousands of years closed their doors because their theories no longer applied to galactic reality. Student Nora's form had dimmed to barely visible levels. What happened to the human forces after the war? They went home, Vex replied simply, returned to their colonies and resumed their normal lives as if the most savage conflict in galactic history had been a minor inconvenience. The curator began shutting down the displays as the tour reached its conclusion. The human war ended not with treaties or negotiations, but with complete capitulation by every species that had opposed them. The galaxy learned that there are some enemies who cannot be reasoned with, bargained with, or defeated through conventional means. As the students filed out of the restricted chamber, Student Cal asked the question that haunted every species in the galaxy. Professor Vex, what would happen if humans decided to wage war again? Vex sealed the blast doors with deliberate care before answering. Student Cal, every military academy in the galaxy now teaches the same fundamental principle. Never give humans a reason to consider you an enemy. He looked back at the sealed chamber containing the most terrifying artifacts in galactic history. Because the human war proved that some species are so dangerous in combat that the only winning strategy is to ensure they never have cause to fight. 50 years later, humanity's name still carried enough weight to end diplomatic disputes with a single mention. The galaxy had learned to fear not human aggression, but human capability, and they made sure to never forget the lesson.